UFC 310, what a card. Chef's kiss to end the year, let's get into it. A technician and undefeated prospect at 15-0 follows in the footsteps of the notorious as the new heir of Irish MMA. The Prince, the future, Ian Machado Gary looks to take one step closer to the throne, but in his way, a mauler from the mountains. With a collection of heads hanging over his shoulder, Kazakhstan's Shavkat Rakhmonov stands at 18-0 with 18 finishes. In the battle of the undefeated, somebody's O must go. I mean, this card really is special. Obviously, I highlighted the co-main event because it's just that good. Two undefeated fighters duking it out. Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian Gary. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. We're going to get into that fight, and we're also going to get into the main event. Don't think I forgot about these fellas. Alexander Pantoja versus Kai Asakura. Kai stepping into the spotlight, a rising bantamweight champ, coming into the UFC, first fight for the title. Who would have thought? But then you also have heavyweights on this card. Cyril Gane, Alexander Volkov, fantastic fight. The best of the best when it comes to grappling and submissions, and Bryce Mitchell and Kron Gracie, as well as Movsar Evloev and Aljamain Sterling. We also have just some straight up bangers. Nate Landwehr, Doo Ho Choi, a war. Brian Battle, Randy Rude Boy Brown, a war. Josh Van, Cody Durden, a war. We have legends. Michael Chiesa's fighting on this card. Chris Weidman, Vicente Luque, Dominic Reyes, Anthony Smith. There is something for everybody, and I didn't even bring up Chase Hooper. This card is so stacked. It's incredibly stacked. I don't have enough time to go through everybody, but we're going to talk about the top two because those are the ones, in my opinion, that matter most. Starting with the champ. Alexander Pantoja. How special is this guy, right? I mean, you look at Alexander Pantoja and what he's been able to do in recent memory. I mean, 3 title defenses. I guess first one wasn't a defense. Brandon Moreno wins the belt off of Brandon Moreno, then takes on Roy Val. We've seen how good Roy Val's look lately. The fight against Tatsuro Atara, one of the best fights you'll watch. And then goes out there and gives us a war against Steve Erceg. That's what I think makes this so interesting. Because you think about the state of the flyweight division, there was nobody left for Alexander Pantoja. He's beaten everybody. The closest guy to him that he hasn't fought is Kai Kara France, and he has fought him. It was just in tough. He's beaten everybody. Everybody. We were hoping Tatsuro Atara would win. We were hoping Amir Albazi would win to give him some fresh blood, but they got to run through guys like Brandon Moreno and Brandon Royval, which is just a problem. Which is a testament to how good Alexander Pantoja is, that he's been running amok on these guys. Beat Moreno 3 times, one being in tough. He's beat Brandon Royval twice. I mean, this guy is truthfully special. He's also got Manel Kape, Alex Perez. His last loss was to Askar Askarov, who's not even in the UFC anymore. Before that, it was Davison Figueiredo. We know how good Davison is. Just gave Petr Yan a run for his money. A weight division up. Alexander Pantoja is the full package. First of all, he's a savage. His chin is next level. Like, you got to think about the guys he's been facing. Moreno, Royval, Erceg, all strikers, high level strikers. And he's able to stand and bang with them and then get them to the ground and do what he does best, which is suffocate you. I mean, legendary chin, which is why I find this fight so difficult when we're looking at Kai Asakura, which, first of all, when this fight got announced, I think everybody had the same reaction, and that's, who the fuck is Kai Asakura? I've done minimal research. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. I watched this last fight. It's available on YouTube against, I'm blanking. Juan Archuleta. And I've seen some highlight tapes of very sophisticated striker, hard hands, big knees, good kicks. But this really is like a who the fuck knows fight because we've never seen Kai Asakura. It's a who the fuck knows fight. That's why I highlighted the co-main event because I'm going to spend the most time on that one. But from what I've seen of Kai Asakura, uphill battle. We just talked about the level of striking that Alexander Pantoja has faced. From what I've seen out of Kai Asakura, he is a killer be killed type of fighter. He will jump into the pocket and swing. You know, in Ryzen, from the one fight I watched, you know, Seemed like he had an okay wrestling defense. I don't know how high level Juan Archuleta is, to be honest with you, but stuffed a takedown or two, but really was like jump into the pocket, land a couple things, jump out, take a couple shots. Like, it was a killer be killed mindset. And you look at his record. I mean, dude's 21-4. TKO body punches, KO, TKO punches, TKO soccer kick, shout to Ryzen, TKO soccer kick, TKO broken jaw. I mean, he's got heavy hands, and we got to remember, this guy's been fighting at 135. He's not a natural 125 or so. It's going to be interesting to see how that weight comes off, if he can keep that power, if, you know, the scale's going to look interesting for Kai Asakura, but if he makes it through, he's still got to run through Alexander Pantoja, which is no easy task. When we're looking at the record, again, I don't know most of these guys. I see here he's got a loss to Manel Kape via KO. He's also beaten Manel Kape via split decision. That's these guys' only crossover when we talk about people they fought. So he's 1-1 with Manel Kape. Pantoja also beat Manel Kape versus via decision. So take that as you may. But this really is a fight of just, let's see what the boys got, because there's a lot of fun fights for him, regardless if he wins this or not. It's nice to have some fresh blood in the flyweight division, which has been in a cycle of rematches going as far back as Davis and Figueiredo and his run-ins with Moreno. So, good fucking fight. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to expect. If Kai Asakura gets it done, a star is born. But Alexander Pantoja, 32 fights. 32 fights? 33 fights, never been knocked out. Dude's got a hell of a chin. So we'll see. We'll put that on we'll see. But the main event, the people's main event, Ian Machado Gary versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. Let's take it back. Let's take it back a little bit, because there was a lot of moving pieces to get us to this point. It didn't just get announced and this is what it is. Started with Shavkat and Bilal. Bilal falls out, and then we're kind of in this limbo period with Shavkat. Shavkat's saying he wants to fight. We're thinking about fights for him. Kamaru Usman, maybe Ian Gary. And then Ian Gary gets announced to fight Joaquin Buckley. Not this week, but the following week in Tampa, Florida. And we're like, oh, that one's gone. Now it really feels like it's kind of a wait and see to when Bilal's going to come back for Shavkat's next fight. And then out of the blue, the whole fucking thing blows up, right? Ian Gary gets moved to this card. He's now fighting Shavkat. Colby Covington, of all people, whole nother fucking can of worms there, gets stuck onto the Joaquin Buckley fight, and we get an all-timer. Honestly, perfect case scenario. I mean, I have not been this excited for a fight since, shit, it wasn't that long ago. Max Holloway, Ilya Topuria, it wasn't that long ago, but such a good fight. 15-0 versus 18-0. Shavkat Rakhmonov is a motherfucker. A motherfucker. Last three fights, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Jeff Neal, Neil Magny. Before that, lower level competition, Carlson Harris, Michael Prazin, and then Cowboy Alex Oliveira. Submission, KO, submission. I mean, this dude's a freaking problem. 18 up, 18 down, all finishes. Nobody's seen the judges' scorecard. Shavkat hasn't even seen the judges' scorecard since he went pro. He's just so well-rounded. And he's not unhittable. If you go back and watch that Jeff Neal fight, it's a war. It's a back-and-forth war. Maybe not back and forth, because the pressure of Shavkat, it always kind of felt like he was in the lead. But Jeff Neal was tagging him. And he just would not stop. He would not stop that forward pressure. And it wasn't even like, you know, when you hear these names, Shavkat Rakhmonov, and, you know, he almost kind of gets put into the same sort of, he's not even Russian, Kazakhstani, but he almost gets put into that same group where you're like, oh, this is just that wrestler. But he didn't even take Jeff Neal down. He choked him out standing. 3 rounds, didn't take him down once. Good clinch. He's great in the clinch. But he's not this relentless wrestler like I think sometimes you get the rap for when you got that OV at the end of your name. He's a gamer. I mean, I would assume a majority of this fight is going to play out on the feet. Who does that lend to? Tough to say. The way Shavkat swings is to kill. It is to kill. And if he gets you in the clinch, I think that's where he does his best work. Fuck the ground. I mean, he's a mauler on the ground, but him in the clinch is nasty. Elbows, you saw it against Jeff Neal. Not to say he can't take you down. He took Stephen Thompson down. He took Neil Magny down, but his clinch work and the way he throws hands is a problem. Machado's going to have to be on that bike all fight, 25 minutes if it goes, which, you know, we've never even seen somebody make it out of the third round. I can't imagine trying to go 5. You know, it's a tough battle when you got a guy like Shavkat Rakhmonov in your face. It's just that style. It's relentless pressure and a chin to fucking win, dog. It is crazy. It is crazy. So fun to watch. Then we look over at Ian Gary, who, like Shavkat Rakhmonov, they have a lot of mutual opponents. Neil Magny, Jeff Neal, and even after that, I know Shavkat fought Wonder Boy. Ian fought Michael Venom Page. It's a very similar kind of point karate style fighting. So they've basically been equal in their last 3 fights. And Shavkat, of course, got the finish on all these guys, but it's not like Ian struggled. I mean, completely outclassed Neil Magny, beat Jeff Neal 30-27, and then I think he won 29-28 against Michael Venom Page, but really, no question. He doesn't have the same finishing ability, or at least we haven't seen it at kind of this higher level that Shavkat Rakhmonov does. The last person he knocked out was Daniel Rodriguez with a head kick, but he's nasty. I mean, if Ian can stay on his bike, stay out of the clinch, that's the one thing from rewatching the Jeff Neal fight is he was on his bike for a majority of it, but Jeff Neal did have like 5 minutes of control time in a clinch. That's going to be a problem. If Shavkat can get Ian backed up and cornered and into that clinch, it's going to be a problem. But if Ian can stay on that bike, his knees, his kicks, they're gross. They're hard. They're fast. And he's a big boy, 6'3". Both these guys are big boys. Usually they have the advantage of height and reach and probably weight. But they're pretty well matched here. I don't actually know what the tail of the tape is. Ian Gary's 6'3", Shavkat 6'1", but big boys. And they've sparred in the past, which is a fun little wrinkle. It's a fun little wrinkle we've been hearing about all week where Shavkat tapped out Ian Gary, which Ian Gary didn't deny. But also it's training, so how much can you take from that? Also, it was in the past. Ian Gary's now on his 3rd camp with Diego Lima and Shooter Boxing. You got to assume that his grappling's gotten better. I mean, we saw it in the MVP fight. That's pretty much what he did. He went out there and grappled MVP. It was a new little wrinkle to the game because you just assume that Ian Gary is this striker. But when you got a guy that's so unorthodox like MVP, he changed up the game plan and went out there and tried to take him down. And I don't expect him to do that, Shavkat. I think it would be a mistake if he did, but his defensive grappling at the least has got to have gotten better. I mean, he's in the gym with guys like Charles Oliveira and in that Brazilian gym. His grappling has to have jumped up leaps and bounds. But the thing I'd be worried about if I were Shavkat Rakhmonov are those knees and those kicks because they are fast and hard. He's a big boy, and he is good on his bike. I mean, we saw it with Jeff Neal. He'll hit you, circle, draw you in, knee you, kick you. I mean, he's a gross little fighter. I fucking love me some Ian Gary, and he's been on the wrong side of some verbal abuse as of late. I mean, started off as the baby face, and then he got Sean Strickland, which is a terrible place to be for anybody. You do not want to be Sean Strickland. Ian Gary doesn't deserve the hate. If anything, he deserves the hate. The one thing I can knock him on is the press conference with Neil Magny was a little bit uncomfortable. He was talking about his kid, hitting his kid or something. I don't really know what it was, but that was a little bit uncomfortable. But all the stuff with his wife and shit, that's strictly Sean Strickland and then Colby Covington jumping off him. And Colby Covington, speaking of the devil, I mean, running like a bitch. No offense from Ian Gary. Proven by the fact that he got that Joaquin Buckley same night that Ian Gary was supposed to fight him, which means he was available and ready. And you know the UFC would have much rather made that fight. in the Joaquin Buckley fight, but presumably Colby said no. If he didn't say no, if he's going to say that he never got offered that fight, you got to know he's lying, because that is a fight the UFC definitely would have made. You know Ian Gary wants it. I don't think he would have took this Shavkat Rakhmonov fight if he had that Colby fight lined up. Doesn't matter what's available. Could have been for an interim belt. Could have been for the belt. Ian Gary wants to beat the fuck out of Colby Covington. Nothing would have stopped him. So I just love this fight. I love this fight. I love this card. This whole fucking card is so good. It's one of those cards that part of me doesn't even want to talk about. I just want to watch it because it's just that special. This fight is so good. 15-0 versus 18-0. Somebody's going to lose it. Me, I got a little bit of Irish blood. I don't know if you can see it. You know, this red skin right now. I don't know if you can see it. I got a little bit of Irish blood, so I'm rooting. I'm rooting for Ian Gary. If you ask me who I'm picking, it's Ian Gary. And it's not because I think he's more skillful. I think they're very equal in level of skill. I think that most of this fight is going to be standing. And Shavkat's going to eat some punches. He's going to. Simple as that. I don't know if Ian has enough power to knock him out. But do I think there's a possibility that he outpoints him through 5 rounds? Absolutely. Do I think there's a possibility that Shavkat catches him, gets him in that clinch, ends up choking him out? Abso-freaking-lutely. But I'm Irish. My grandma, you go to her backyard, there's an Irish flag hanging in the back. So I'm riding for the boy. I'm riding for the boy. But I love this card. UFC 310, really a fantastic card to end the year. In 311, most of that card is announced. Fantastic as well. UFC is on an absolute roll right now. I am so freaking excited for this weekend. I just realized how freaking red I got just from touching myself for a couple seconds there. So it's something I got to deal with in my life. But for you, it's just turning on the TV. Spend that $79.99 this weekend because this is a fantastic card. Even if you don't like Ian Gary, you gotta love Nate Landwehr, baby. I know you gotta pay for that. Alexander Pantoja, Kaya Sakura, welcome to the UFC. Let's see what the fuck happens. Peace, love, and we'll see you next week.